Hey everybody and welcome. In this carving video, I'm going to be talking about how to get started in the craft. So keep watching if you want to get into it, but you just don't really know how to get started. The absolute most important purchase in carving equipment is a quality set of gouges. When I first started carving, I bought a super cheap set from a hobby store, and it was an absolute terrible experience. It was not cutting smooth, and I almost quit carving right there. I took a chance and I bought a starter carving set from File, and my first couple strokes got me hooked. The gouges were razor sharp out of the box, and they cut like butter. That is my #1 suggestion for a first set of gouges, is they have to cut razor sharp out of the box. As a new carver, you're not going to want to figure out how to sharpen when realistically you don't even know how a sharp gouge is supposed to perform. There is a variety of gouge brands out there to choose from that honestly would perform just fine to get started, but I can personally speak of 2 brands in particular because those are the only ones that I have used. My first File set works great, and I still use almost all of them consistently even now. Again, they come razor sharp out of the box and they hold an edge really well. I have shaft gouges as well, which are quite a bit cheaper than File. So if you're on a budget, they are a good option. But what I would suggest is spend a little extra money and buy the premium sets that come pre-sharpened. Again, as a new carver, you're not gonna want to learn how to sharpen before you even start the craft. I have flex cut knives as well, which come razor sharp, so I'd assume that their gouges would probably come the same way, but I personally have not used any flex cut gouges before. I gravitate towards File just because of their quality and their variety of gouges. I haven't found another brand that has such a large selection of gouges, including spoons for deep relief carving. When looking for a starter set, make sure it's got a V gouge and a good variety of sweep depths and widths. Have 1 or 2 gouges for each depth of sweep, shallow, medium, and deep. So your number 3s and 5s, and then your number 7s and number 9. Besides just knowing carving principles and how to safely carve, you need to have a secure method to lock your wood in place so you can easily carve with 2 hands without the wood moving on you. I always cringe when I see someone trying to manipulate a full-size gouge while holding the wood in their other hand. You just lose control and things can go wrong very quickly. For the longest time, all I had was just some cheap clamps and secured my wood to the kitchen table. It's a simple, cheap tool, but important to get a good carving experience. There's a lot of options for clamps. It doesn't need to be fancy. The only thing is that the clamps need to be able to open wide enough to secure your wood to whatever table you're using. If you decide later on that wood carving is something you want to commit to, then you can upgrade to a carving table of some kind if you want, or if you're handy, you can make one on your own. A leather strap and honing compound is all you should need for a long time. That was my first biggest mistake when I started carving, is I assumed that if a gouge wasn't performing, I'd go right to the sharpening stone, when in fact, all that was needed was a quick strop. Also, if you're primarily carving softwoods like basswood or pine, you really rarely have to sharpen your gouges. I'd say 90% stropping and 10% sharpening is a good general rule. Usually the only time I turn to a sharpening stone is if I can physically see a nick or an imperfection on the edge. Other than that, usually a good stropping will get it done. Most starter sets come with leather strops and honing compound now, but if not, you can easily get both of them for a good price online. You can even take it a step further and just apply honing compound to a flat, smooth scrap of wood. Honestly, that's what I still prefer even now over a leather strop. For me, I feel like I can get a sharper edge doing it this way. The wood is obviously flat and hard, so you just find the bevel and strop away. You can do it without really worrying about making a mistake or ruining an edge. I found that with a leather strap, there's a slight learning curve to it. You need the right angle to find the bevel, and you need to apply the correct amount of pressure in order to get a sharp edge. Too much pressure can actually round the edge, making it dull. I guess I don't know really what the pros and cons are to wood versus leather, but that's just what I personally prefer because I've found success doing it that way. It's probably just personal preference though. Another thing I love about using wood to hone though is that you can actually create your own gouge strokes for the different sweeps that you have. It can be a bit much if you have a large selection of gouges, but it's an easy, cheap way to start. If you absolutely need to sharpen a gouge, I suggest getting a diamond stone with a fine and coarse grit. Don't start with any power equipment because you can ruin a gouge super quickly if you don't know the principles behind proper sharpening. Honestly, I'm still personally trying to master proper sharpening techniques. I have a fine diamond sharpening stone and a shaft stone with fine and coarse grit on both sides. Both have worked well for me so far. I suggest to stay away from wet stones. Maybe I personally used it wrong, but from my experience, it did not work well for me. As I sharpened with it, the surface of the stone actually changed a little and made little grooves in the stone. Maybe this is the intent, I don't know, but for me it seemed like you'd get an inconsistent sharpening with a surface not completely flat. If any of you have experiences with these, let me know how it works and how they are supposed to be used if I used it wrong. You don't need to fork over a ton of money to test the waters and try the wood carving craft. You can comfortably get into what you need and still have quality equipment that you can trust long term. If it's something that you find out you really enjoy, just slowly add tools and equipment as you go. That's what I've been doing for 10 years now, and I'm still loving every step of the way. If you want to check out a list of gouges and equipment that I recommend to get you started, you can go to my website at www.chiseledoutdoors.com. I am not sponsored by any of these companies. These are just recommendations based on my own experiences. I've spent a lot of money and time trying different tools that ended up off to the side, never to be used again. I'm by no means the best carver in the world. I just hope I can help some people out so they don't make the same mistakes I did. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.